Well, goodest of mornings, leaders. We are in Philippians 3 now. Thank you so much for reading it along if you have been. Philippians 3 is amazing. Probably one of the most, the craziest verses is just for sure chapter 3, verse 3 verse 8. Yes, everything else is worthless when compared with the infinite value of knowing Christ my Lord. For his sake I've discarded everything else, counting it all as garbage so that I could gain Christ. Super powerful verse, and that's usually the one that actually sticks out to me, because I definitely had always kind of wrestled with clinging to things of the world versus what should I really be sacrificing and giving up to follow Christ. Is to really have that attitude that no, everything else is worthless, nothing else matters if I don't know God, if I don't have time with Jesus. But reading actually through this time, something that stuck out to me was verse 18 down, where he says, "For I've told you often before, and I say it again with tears in my eyes, that there are many of those who conduct..." Nope, let me start that over. I wrote that wrong. "I tell you again with tears in my eyes that there are many of those whose conduct shows they are really enemies of the cross. They are headed for destruction. Their God is their appetite. They brag about shameful things, and they think only about life here on earth." And so you read kind of that part, and you hear yeah, man, enemies of the cross, yeah. And usually you kind of hear that attitude of yeah, their God is their appetite. They brag about shameful things. They only care about life here on earth. Statements like that could come across in this judgmental, harsh way. But the way Paul starts it, "I say it again with tears in my eyes." It's not this kind of heavy condemnation he's throwing out. He's heartbroken. He's actually heartbroken that there are those who are enemies of the cross. Go later. As I was saying, I'm a 9 on the Enneagram, so usually it's if people are you know what, hey, Christianity is not my thing, don't know God, I'm that's cool, yeah, you don't need to believe, yeah, that's fine. You believe whatever you want to. I got my thing, I get it, it's America, we all have our own thing going on. My next door neighbor, the first time I met him, I told him I worked for a church. He's like, "Hey man, hey, don't be preaching that crap over here." He didn't say crap. He said a swear word. He's like, don't be preaching that crap over here, man. No one cares. No one wants to hear it. Don't be doing that. And I was like, "Hey man, yeah, of course, yeah. No, never. Yeah, I wouldn't do that." But honestly, to hear man, for people who think only about this life on earth, you think about the tragedy of that. That man, when we were there's way more to this life than you realize. That man, you don't know that there's a God that loves you and gave his life for you. These are things that should break our heart. These are things that we should be thinking about. That man, who around us doesn't know who God is? Who's an enemy of the cross? Enemy of the cross. That stood out to me. And so I guess, the challenge for myself is just sort of really figuring out, man, how can I be more bold and courageous about my faith? Yeah, I don't know why I think that, for some reason, if I were to talk to somebody, invite them to church, they would instantly get angry and it would turn into this fist fight. Or they'd make fun of me and ridicule me. It's even if they did, it's okay, well, that was pretty rare. That probably shouldn't have happened. But usually if you just invite somebody to church, invite them to prayer, so many people. There was this study that came out a little while ago that 85% of people said they would go to church if someone just invited them. And that's kind of stuck with me, that man, most people you come across are just kind of waiting for that right invitation. And I think now could be a good time. Because, they don't have, there's not a whole lot they'd have to sacrifice. Just, hey, tune in for an hour, Saturday night, Sunday morning, check it out. Or just, if they're not interested in that, just be hey, well, can I text you or call you once a week just to check in, see how you're doing, tell you a little bit about my life, and just, get to know and build a relationship, because, relationships are usually the best. But, I think, for sure, if any of us have that attitude of just oh yeah, all these people who are non-Christians, non-godly people doing all these sinful things, but to be heartbroken over that, and not judgmental. is, yeah, cool. Stuck out to me. Love you guys. Hopefully you got something great out of Philippians 3. I'll see you tomorrow for Philippians 4.